We were born at Ton Tavern, but the next 250 years begin at Bellow Wood Tavern. This is Tavern Talk, where history, humor, and hard-earned leadership lessons collide, keeping the Marine spirit alive for generations to come. Hosted by Captain Roy DeCrube and Zachary Green, Marines, brothers, and founders of the Bellow Wood Tavern, just outside the gates of Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Paris Island. Pull up a stool, grab a drink, and join the conversation, where past meets present. Visit www.bwoodtavern.com or text BWT to 843-929-1775. The next 250 years start here.
Okay. All right, here we are. Episode 3 of Tavern Talk. Roy, how you doing, my brother?
It's still good.
Excellent. So before we get started, because we can't have a podcast episode without talking about what we're drinking tonight, let's go ahead and start with this not only amazing bottle of bourbon, but what does that say on the bottle of bourbon there?
Those are rare, and they're going to be even rarer. That's the First to Fight 200th birthday edition of the Double O.
That is correct. So Woodford Reserve from Lexington, Kentucky, one of my personal favorites. So not only is it a wonderfully oak bourbon, but this one here, they double oak it. So you really get that wonderful woodsy oak feeling come through. But this is a special run that they made. First to Fight 250 years. I'll see if I can go ahead and zoom in for those of you that are looking at us. But they did a special run of this bourbon, one barrel only, for the 200-year anniversary of the Marine Corps. So that's what we're going to be drinking and honoring tonight.
What are you smoking there?
I right now have a Rocky Patel, one of my personal favorites. I'm not as manly as you are, Roy. I can't smoke a strong cigar. So Rocky Patel is a nice, good, mild option.
Rocky Patel, that's a good smoke, especially for the weather that we've had, as hot as it's been this summer. I'm smoking my favorite cigar of all time right now. This is AJ Fernandez. It's Ave Maria Divina box press. And after the meal we had tonight, I mean, before we started this, we had between 4 of us, 5 or 6 ribeyes, thick cut. But
great way to spend the evening of having a nice steak, good bottle of wine,
about a 1/4 pound of butter total.
Absolutely. We're gonna definitely have to PT for the next week to blow that out of our system.
I didn't know how we survive without hybrid.
That is true. Well, let's talk a little bit. You know, the last couple episodes we talked about the history of the Marine Corps and everything, but I think what would be nice is I'd like to learn a little bit more about you, Roy, and maybe some stuff about me and what brought us to the Marine Corps.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know quite a bit about you, you know quite a bit about me, and as you said in the last one, talk about dysfunctional. This probably would have been an appropriate first episode.
Well,
here we are, episode 3.
Typical Marines, we get things a little confused and mixed up a little bit. So we didn't have the crayons in the right order.
Hey, if we don't know what we're doing, the enemy doesn't know what we're doing.
That's true. Let's go ahead and let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background when you grew up and kind of your journey to get to that point where you walked in that recruiter's office.
Okay. Well, my name is Roy DeCrube, the only DeCrube in the Department of War. I am the first American born in my family. First one. So my parents immigrated here from Lebanon. My sister was already born. She came on over with my folks. It was me, my little brother, grew up in Detroit, Michigan. A small town boy, born and raised in South Detroit.
Song started that way.
Song started out, here I am. He is I and I am him. Growing up, man, always had an infatuation with service. Always. Whether it was
Did you do scouts at all growing up?
No,
Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts?
Nothing. I didn't grow up shooting, didn't grow up hunting, didn't grow up doing anything outdoorsy, not hiking. Literally a urban type of dwelling and big high school, first $1 million high school in America, actually attended. So I grew up doing no kind of traditional Marine Corps precursor activities that you'd find or expect. But that's kind of common with a lot of Marines, though, I think.
Yeah, but your family had a real sense of service because your brother's a police officer. Is that right?
Yeah.
You're a Marine, so I mean,
Little
obviously.
brother got all patriotic, became a police officer, probably the hardest way possible. He works a rough precinct in Detroit. And Caesar, I love you, man. I'd do anything for you, anything we could do for you. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Zach. And I appreciate him. And as he's going through that new career, I couldn't be prouder. Actually looking forward to putting the Detroit PD patch up somewhere upon that. I told him the other day, actually, I was like, I wanted to get a big old picture of you at your graduation printed in the past. But I was like, I don't want people to think you were dead because that would look all memorially. So I did it. And I feel bad for putting that out there. He's like, man, stop. You're right.
So look, you could have joined any branch of the service. You could have done whatever else. At what point in time in your life did you decide, hey, I'm thinking the Marine Corps might be a good option?
So when I first came of age and was able to join the military, I knew that the Marine Corps would be the ideal choice. But at the time, I mean, I had long curly locks down in my lower back. I was a punk rocking I was that kid. I was that grungy, long-haired kid in high school. And I just didn't think that I could be a Marine. I didn't think that I had the mettle, but I had a very, very strong bias for service. So I actually started out looking at options for the buddy program with my friend Anthony at the time, who was considering it. And due to his background, he wasn't really qualified to go into very much but the Navy or the National Guard. So we checked out the National Guard, and I remember they loaded us down with backpacks, patches, stickers, drawstring packs, and it was awesome. It's like just for showing up to an appointment, talk to the recruiter. I really laid out all the opportunities, and I'm thinking, man, I actually remember thinking, why would anybody join the Marine Corps? Because they didn't give us anything.
Look, you're 17, 18, you're getting free swag. How could you not?
We called, and they just said, if you want to talk to the recruiter, come on in. The Army guy was all about all the swag they had to give us just to come in and talk. So, hey, there we go. Let's do it. And between the bonuses that were out, at least at the time, it was 2007, at least at the time, I'm thinking, man, this is a sure thing. But it turned out my buddy couldn't join the military. He had some disqualifying factors, so it was just me. Since it was just me, I'm like, well, my options open up a little bit. So, you know what? Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk to the Marine recruiter. So I went in thinking like, all right, let's see what they got.
With your long hair, with your mullet.
No, it was worse than a mullet. It was
just a mop.
This would humble Joe Dirt. This was out. Did I ever show you a picture?
No, I'd love to see it though.
So I wonder if my phone's about to die. We'll put up. Maybe we'll superimpose a picture to the videos.
Try to do that.
Unbelievable. So I show up to the recruiter's office, and the way they looked at me, was not expecting this. I walked into the Navy recruiting office. It was very, hey, like, young man, what about the Navy brought you? Oh, this is and that. Oh, well, we have this and this as well. Same thing with the Army. Very accommodating, very friendly, very approachable. That total energy shift in the Marine Corps office. It was an absolute, who the fuck are you? So I was like, it's not what I'm used to. I'm looking to get some information for the Marine. What is it that you bring to the table that would make you think that we should talk to you? Instantly sold, done. I don't know what my face betrayed, but instantly knew right then and there was no way I was ever going to set foot in another office. As soon as he said, what is it that you think you bring to the table to make you potentially considered to be a Marine? So I sat down and I was like, well, I really like the fact that every Marine is a rifleman. I really like that the Marine Corps is the first to fight. And they're like, whoa, how do you know that? Told them that I'd done my research and I really admired the Marine Corps and I'd always admired the Marine Corps. And I thought it would be my first choice. Told them about my plans to join my buddy. They're like, man, you're talking about stuff that the Marines learn in boot camp. But you already know that? Oh, okay. Like, okay, we'll bite. What is it that you want to accomplish? I was like, well, maybe the reserves, because I was like, took out the guard. Like, no. He's like, they started chewing my ass. Like, get out of your comfort zone. What are you doing? Oh, just like, why would you do that? Are you trying to join the military and the freaking Boy Scout? Like, are you joining the military or are you just trying to shop for something that you're unsure about? This is not something you do that you're unsure about. The way they challenged me, the way they challenged my position, they didn't try and validate where I was coming from and try to sell me to something. They challenged me. They called me out on my timidity. They called me out on my unsureness, and it made me think, like, you're right. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, my true sober inner monologue said that I do desire a sincere change, and I do want to be a Marine. And I was 17 at the time, so I had to get my mom in to sign the papers. And again, like I said, my family immigrated from Lebanon. And if you do the math, my mom was in Lebanon during the heights, most gruesome types of the Civil War. And she laughed at the idea of my 140, 150 pound self with long curly hair. She said, you are going to be a Marine? Like, the idea, like, the Marines were these terrifying things that sometimes they would fight whoever. Like, they were there on peacekeeping missions. They were there for a complete guarded perimeter, and they were terrifying each other. And it was almost as bad as the Marines calling me out, like, viscerally, to hear my mom, like.
So you got it on from your mom and from the recruiter.
Both. It's like a
young testosterone-laden 17-year-old. Like,
she was like, the Marines, huh? Like,
they're calling you out. They're like, you're set up for this.
My mom was really pushing me to go to college, But due to, like, I had no idea how to apply for college. I knew we were broke. Like, we were dead broke, right? And my mom wasn't a citizen. My parents already split this time. And so I had no idea how to go about financial aid or scholarships. So college was not really something I thought was impossible, but seemed like a bridge too far financially. So it made the military more appealing. But when the way she laughed, like, Marine, she was like, sure, I'll sign the papers. Like, you can have a plan Z. Why not? Everybody needs a plan Z. And almost jokingly came to the recruiting office, signed my waiver to join at 17. Sure enough, also, funny enough, there was a guy in my neighborhood who, like, big burly Jack type, older, kind of looked up to the younger guys, and he joined the Army. But he came back, didn't make it through basic training. It was like a Section 8 type mental health case. And so between me saying I want to be a Marine and this, like, big burly dude coming back, not making it through the Army, it was a pure, like, my mom entertained the idea that it was adorable. I was considering being a Marine. Sure, I'll sign, but there was no chance that I would ever even make it to be screened, let alone earn the title Marine. Well, it was just fanning the fire. And talking to the recruiter, I really admired my recruiter, Staff Sergeant Amon and Staff Sergeant Reynolds. And there was also Staff Sergeant Crawford in the office. I still remember everybody that worked there, RS Detroit.
It's amazing. Every Marine that I've ever met always remembers their recruiter.
Right there on Telegraph in Carlisle, RS Detroit, Eastern Recruiting Region, next to the command that I serve in now. I was recruited out of, and I didn't really think about that before. But there I was, signed the papers, graduated high school, and shipped off to Parris Island. Didn't go to college. My mom was beside herself. This is really happening. My son's going to go to boot camp.
Gonna cut your pretty curly locks off.
So I could read in her voice, 17, you're a kid. You're absolutely a kid. But you're keen enough to pick up on somebody's tone. And the way she talked to me about leaving was very much reassuring me that it's going to be okay when I come home in a few weeks, like in a few days even.
You're not
maybe.
Gonna make it.
She said, you ain't going to make it. Like, but lovingly, like a mother should. But, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, a month goes by, a month and a half goes by, Thanksgiving passes. I went in October, came back in January. So he's still there and never called home during boot camp. It's a thing now, besides, the post Yellow Footprint scream session. Beyond that, never called home. Did letters, though. Written correspondence to him throughout the whole thing. She was proud of me when I finished the rifle range. Just every minute being on Parris Island, knowing that I was just every minute of dealing with that hellhole that is Parris Island as a recruit, to me was just a laughing in the face at everybody that said you couldn't do it. Every second. It brought me so much peace knowing that every second I was there was another mile of validation, and everybody not only doubted me, but failed at lesser endeavors. So 13 weeks go by. Obviously, everybody's got infinite amounts of boot camp stories, but there I was on the Pete Ross parade deck, humping all the way back. They play that music. You're right there at the Iwo Jima Memorial, and you're just completely in a different reality.
What did that mean for you to be standing there realizing that all those people thought you couldn't make it? Even your mother thought it, and now You just done the crucible, 50 something hours.
I was a child of immigrants, new to this country, and so much reality was hitting me in that moment because, growing up, I was obsessed with shows like Family Matters, Growing Pains, Seventh Heaven, Boy Meets World, anywhere where there was a nuclear family that had a lineage of grandparents, great-grandparents, history. It had history where they were. I never had that. And like growing up, it seemed like how there's two types of new products, those that wear out and those that wear in. I always felt like the kind of thing that wears out, like very surface level, very superficial. I wasn't somebody with a family crest. I wasn't somebody whose parents and great-grandparents went to this university. It was all for the first time. But standing there on the parade deck, everything that I adored and admired and always wanted to be a part of growing up, all of a sudden, I was a part of. All of a sudden, I went from somebody who was only like that. I always felt like an inch deep, right, in lore and personal history. All of a sudden, I had century-old heritage
in your family, new family.
Of course, that I now, and when it's that sincere, it didn't feel like I earned an achievement. It felt like I earned a very beautiful burden, that I was honored to now earn a responsibility that I've always wished to champion, a legacy, a love for our shared legacy.
And it's funny, you use a word that I use a lot that a lot of people don't think about. It's not just an honor to receive that eagle beloved anchor. It's a burden because you can't get rid of it. It's something you carry for the rest of your life. And when you do something bad, you don't do it as a civilian or as a father or grandfather, a citizen. You do it as a Marine. And when you hear about these 80-year-old men that have somebody breaks into their house and they beat them to an inch of their life with their cane, they don't say a senior citizen did that. They say the Marine did that. But also on the flip side, if a Marine does something stupid and they get a DUI or they get in a fight, they say a Marine did this. So that's the burden as you carry that title, no matter if you were a Marine for just 3 months or for whenever.
We say burden, and to people, it seems as though it's a bane, like it's a negative.
No, it's an honorable
for somebody
burden.
Who's earned this. We know that you can't be a sorry burger flipping motherfucker and have this burden.
Absolutely.
You have to put everything down to have the privilege of bearing such a burden.
It is a privilege to have that burden.
Indeed. Yes. Very few people understand that. Very few organizations in this world and in humanity's history have mastered the craft of being able to impart that on new prospects the way we do in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. And there I was, Zach, I remember standing there on the parade deck and feeling that, just being imbued in this family. And as I was feeling this revitalization of my spirit, Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant Jones, Avius T. Jones, with the gold tooth, stands in front of me, holds out his hand, and puts a matte black Eagle Globe and anchor in my hand. And I'm telling you, I cried like a baby. And he said, "Hey, welcome to the Dun Club." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Don't call me sir, call me Staff Sergeant." I said, "He said, "Don't call me sir, call me Staff Sergeant." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Don't call me sir, call me Staff Sergeant." And Staff Sergeant, I was crying. And he's like, and he was like a nod, like, right on, brother. And he walked on, gave the next guy his Eagle Globe and anchor. And that, of course I stood. But that moment is still alive today. That moment is still alive when it's 2:30 and it's cold as shit, and I got to get out of my sleeping bag, and I got to post watch in the field. And I could very easily just slide my way into post, get behind a gun, and look out. Or I could lace up my boots just in case shit hits the fan. I could secure my armor just in case. I could lock my chin strap on my Kevlar, and I could start identifying TRPs just in case. Because that legacy, that burden, demands everything that you put in to achieve it every second that you bear it. And that is such a beautiful thing to be a part of.
And what you're talking about right now is so important because we want not just our Marine brothers and sisters that obviously know that, but we want the families that come down here to Paris Island to be able to understand what that means. But most importantly, we also want the people that we serve to understand that. And I think that's really special. What we're doing at the Bellwood Tavern is giving a space where we can share those stories and share that example of what that means to sacrifice and have that burden of that extra responsibility and honor.
Well, when you transcend your individuality into truly being a part of something bigger than you, you appreciate what it means to serve. And that's why I hear about people who talk about what they've done for their children who serve, for their family members who serve. And I, from the bottom of my heart, I say, thank you for your family's gift of service to this country, because that is enormous. It means a lot to somebody for you to invest in their ideas. It means a lot for you to mentor somebody who's trying to better themselves. But when you share your blood and your children into a profession of arms that calls upon them to deliver everything that they have up to and including their own life, that goes way beyond thank you for your service. That is thank you for your gift of service to this country.
And especially a first-generation immigrant, somebody that came to this country and felt like they had an obligation, even though your parents weren't born here and you spent such little time here, to be able to do that also, in addition to somebody that maybe is 4 and 5 generations. Well, that's so special.
There's a beautiful quote that I think is very pertinent, not just here, but just in general. And it's, freedom is never held more fondly than in the hands of those who bear it for the first time.
That's deep.
And for me, it felt as though I had truly done something to further my family's claim in this country, which is a whole nother layer of accomplishment and burden, honorable burden, like you said.
And to cement that legacy, it is amazing.
I agree. And it's, could not be more proud of my brothers and sisters who continue to be born again into that same fraternity. And they're on that ancestral home ground of Paris Island.
That's tremendous. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Now, Zach, you've been alive for a very, 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 very long time.
Thank you for pointing that out.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm the old guy at work. All right. So, hey, my big brother gets to be the old guy here. Okay. So, yeah, I'm pretty savvy on a good bit of your lore, but you also have such a past and a history. And, for me, a guy like me who can, it kind of, the maths for me to end up earning the title of Marine, because at the end of the day, there is a lot offered to further my ability and my capacity to provide by coming to the Marine Corps at that young age. But for you, I would venture to say that your family would be even more shocked than mine.
They're still shocked. And that was many years ago.
Right? And so that's when you're like, wow, your mom left. In the back of my mind, I've always thought that it had to have been way, way more impactful for you. So please go ahead. I want, this is good. This is a good story for everybody hearing it.
I mean, look, my parents, my father played in the symphony. My mother's a ballerina. We don't have a single person in our family that was in the military. Although I just found out, I did my Ancestry.com. I found out I do have a couple very distant relatives that served in the Revolutionary War. So I'm very proud about that. Look, I grew up with a family that was so unbelievably liberal and anti-gun that I wasn't even allowed to have squirt guns growing up. So my parents weren't looking. I would run out in the woods and grab a couple sticks and break them off and find one that had a little Y in the stick so I could pretend like it was a machine gun. And in kindergarten, literally would run through the woods and spread mud on my face. My friends would be out playing soccer or kick the can or riding on their big wheels and bicycles. And I would literally be pretending like I was in Iwo Jima or Belleau Woods. And I'll never forget, it was kindergarten, and the teacher had an assignment, which was we all had to draw a picture of something that makes us happy. So everyone's drawing pictures of rainbows and their stick figure families holding each other and unicorns and hearts and all this stuff. And I draw a picture of a bunch of commies getting run over by tanks, airburst artillery shells, arms, legs, heads floating through the air. And so what do you imagine my teacher did when she saw that?
Valedictorian.
Immediately right to the principal's office, called my parents up. They yanked me out. I ended up at Cincinnati Children's Hospital psych ward in kindergarten. And the psychologist is asking me all these questions like, why would you do that? Do you want to hurt yourself? Do you want to hurt somebody else? And I'm like, look, the teacher said, draw something that makes you happy. And nothing in the world makes me more happy than bringing death and destruction to the enemies of freedom. And I want to be a Marine. And she's like, okay. And my parents are like, where did we go wrong?
How did you hear about the Marines?
I don't know. I mean, it was something that I truly believe in reincarnation. I believe that in a previous life, I had a warrior in me that was just waiting to get out. Every single Halloween from kindergarten all the way through high school, I was G.I. Joe. I had a passion for that. In high school, people are putting pictures on the inside of their lockers of sports figures and fashion things. I had taken the Marine Corps recruiting brochures and cut them up and had pictures all in there. But I had a really significant challenge growing up. I went to 6 different schools from kindergarten to high school. I went to Montessori schools. I went to private schools. I went to special learning disability schools. I went to really fancy private schools. And I ended up at a Catholic school. Being a Jewish kid at a Catholic school, you can imagine, it was quite interesting. But what I learned so much at the Catholic school that I, to this day, have the greatest appreciation, respect, and love for was sense of service, the sense of giving something to others more than what you can do for yourself. And I'll never forget, during my time in school, I again had a lot of challenges. A lot of people say I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I can't do this, I can't do that. And rather than dealing with a lot of those challenges, my parents were great parents. They would take me out and send me to another school. I'll never forget, I was turned 18. It was time to go make that final decision that I always wanted to do of joining the Marine Corps, but wanted to sweeten the pot up a little bit before I got there. So I went to the Air Force recruiter, and I'll never forget, I walked in there, and the whole purpose of going there was trying to get a better deal with the Marine Corps. And the Air Force recruiters telling me about all this great food that we could have and how the barracks are nice and that they don't even use rank. They just call each other by their first name. And I'm just thinking like, okay, that sounds cool, but not really something I'm interested in. And then went to the Army recruiter, and he's like, look, I can get you $20,000 cash bonus right now if you do this. I'd get you a $1,000 cash bonus if you can do that. No other brands can do that. I'm like, that's great, but I'm not really joining for the money. And I went to the Navy recruiter, and he starts telling me about traveling the 7 seas and going to all these countries. And, you know, I was fortunate with my family to get to travel quite a bit internationally. And I'm like, you know, that doesn't mean anything. And so I walk in the Marine recruiting office. I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and unlike your big mop that you had, I had the true mullet, you know, party in the front, business in the back, or vice versa. I had an earring, believe it or not. And I walk in, Staff Sergeant Beatrice Houston, remember him like it was yesterday. And also next to him was PFC Ben Grant, who, by the way, today is a full bird colonel and is in charge of a MAG unit up in Cherry Point right now. We still keep in touch, but ended up becoming one of my absolute best friends. But I walked in, I said, look, Army offered me this, Navy offered me that, Air Force offered me this. What's the Marine got to offer me? And he looks me up and down. He said, son, we've been the finest fighting force for 225 years and will continue to be that way, with or without you. He's like, my question to you is, what do you have to offer the Marine Corps? And I'm like, this is kind of interesting, a little different. And then he looks me up and down and he goes, look, I've seen your type before. There's no way you can make it through 3 months of Parris Island. He's like, there's no way that you're going to be able to survive all that stuff. And I'm like, I can hear every other coach and teacher in my life that told me I'm not strong enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough. And I showed him, I grabbed that contract out of his hand, I signed it, and before you know it, I'm down at the MEP station, you know, doing the duck walk and having doctors look at parts of your body that no human being should ever put their face that close into.
I never did the duck walk.
Never had to do that? Oh, my God.
I came in during the surge.
I remember it like yesterday. I came in right as hostilities were going on during Desert Storm. It was 91 at that time. General Gray was a commandant. That's how long ago it was. And I remember, you know, it was kind of a blur. I was going to college. I was going to go to boot camp between my freshman and sophomore year of college. My whole intention was to become an officer. And I'll never forget, I get down there and the yellow footprints, and I'm just so excited to finally be there. And this drill instructor comes out of the receiving barracks, this gorgeous silver wall with these gold letters saying, "Through these portals pass prospects for America's finest fighting force, the United States Marines." I stood on the exact same yellow footprints you stood on, and many of our hundreds of thousands of ancestors stood on. And these guys got really mean, and they were yelling, and I just was like, wait a second, because up to this point, yeah, like everyone had been really nice to you up at that point in time. And I remember we made it through receiving, you don't get to sleep for 3 days, and it's tough, but it's not that bad. And finally, comes around, we get our rifles issued, and he says, "Oh, you're going to meet your drill instructors today." And I'm like, "Well, whoa, what are you?" And he's like, No, I'm on outpost. This is my break. He is, "You'll meet the real ones." And I'll never forget. He
said that to you?
Yep. He marched us all over. We show up to Alpha Company, Platoon 1076, first deck over there in 1st Battalion, and here marches out 4 of the most locked and cocked robots I've ever seen in my life. I'll never forget the series commander gives the issue to our senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant McDavitt, said, "Carry out the training schedule of the day," and all hell broke loose. It was just berserk. And over the next 2 days, you don't get a lot of sleep. There's a lot of yelling. And by the 4th or 5th day, I realized I'd made a mistake. Like, I was not supposed to be here. And you got to understand, I'm a big mama's boy. My mom literally laid my clothes out for me on the end of my bed my senior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
I never had done laundry. I've never cooked a meal for myself. I've never folded clothes before. My parents, the ones that helped me every time I had problems, they wouldn't help me address the problems. They would just pull me out of that school and send me to the next school. And by week 2, I realized I was in the wrong place. And everyone else knew that too. I was, quote, that Marine. And we were out there, I'll never forget, on the Petros parade deck, and we're drilling. They go for a column left. And of course, I turn right and everyone else turns left. We have a drill instructor, as you know, called the Heavy, whose job is mainly discipline. And he pulls me aside and starts giving me what we call IT, incentive training. So I'm doing push-ups on the hot black asphalt of the parade deck. By the way, it was freshly asphalt at that time. It's not so much anymore. I'm laying on my back, doing letter kicks and those type of things. And as he's just giving me the business, he leans down and says, "Your mama's not here to help you anymore." And boy, that really cut deep, because even to this day, look, I'm 52 years old. I still talk to my mom multiple times a week, and she wasn't there to help me. And as he starts talking to me, I start just losing it. I'm crying uncontrollably. I'm ugly crying. I'm in a prenatal position. I got literally the white shit coming out of my mouth.
He never slept better that night.
He knew he had slayed properly.
Yeah.
And as my tears start to clean up and I can see his back as he's marching to the rest of the platoon, but then something really incredible happened. This abyss opens up on the parade deck. I could literally see this hole open up. And I remember the great philosopher Nietzsche, he says, when you're looking at the abyss, the longer you look at the abyss, the abyss will start to stare back at you. And I finally understood what he was saying by that. And that is, when you're in that situation that's really difficult, the longer you put yourself in that situation, the harder it is to get out. We've all had friends or family, or maybe even us, that have dealt with drug abuse or alcohol abuse or physical abuse or emotional abuse. The longer you're in those scenarios, the harder it is to get out. And what you have to realize when you're in that point, that abyss, and for me, it was the absolute single-handed moment of my entire life as I was falling down that abyss in front of me. But you realize this beautiful sense of clarity when you're in the abyss, when you're at that bottom point in your life. You realize, A, you can't go any lower, and B, the only way is out. And you use that rock bottom as the foundation of the new empire that you built. And that's exactly what I did. I decided at that point in time, I wasn't going to be the spoiled little rich kid anymore. I was going to be a Marine, but not only a Marine, I was going to be the best Marine that ever lived. And I could see that abyss close up. I cleaned my eyes off. I joined my platoon, and for the next 12, 13 weeks, I was possessed. I mean, I PT'd as much as I could. I did extra studying. I focused on weapon assembly, drill, you name it. And just from that point on, not just in the Marines, but in life, it gave me this new sense of pride and purpose and understanding that if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. And won't necessarily get into it tonight, but a lot of things happen in my life that really come back to what I learned. We didn't have the Crucible when I was in. We had basic warrior training. We did longer back then, right? It was a little longer, and we did the same amount of hiking. We got to shoot crew served weapons. We got to throw live grenades. We got to shoot AT-4 rockets and those type of things. But we didn't become a Marine until the morning of graduation. And it was the battalion commander that said, "Good morning, Marines." That was the first time you were called Marines. And I remember the night before, our senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant McDavitt, said, "Look, I'm not going to let some old officer call you a Marine for the first time. You guys are Marines." And to this day, Roy, of all the things I've accomplished, there is nothing I'm more proud of than standing in that squad bay at platoon 1076 Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, being called a Marine. And I can say without reservation, the greatest, most proud moment of my entire life right there.
I wonder if that was a thing, because that you've been to many graduations. The battalion commander says, "Let me take a moment to address the Marines. Good morning, Marines."
That was the first time you were called a Marine.
After the Eagle Globe and Anchor ceremony, drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Highsmith, our heavy, we get the speech from the first sergeant afterwards at the memorial, and it concludes with drill instructors take charge and feed your platoon a warrior's breakfast.
Yes.
And as soon as we turn to, Staff Sergeant Highsmith says, "Get on your packs, Marines." And that was huge. That get on the gear, Marines. We were just called Marines.
And you had just been through the most difficult process. Your feet were bloodied, you were tired, but at that point in time, you were the highest you'd ever been.
It was a bunch of dirty, dumbass, broke off, borderline useless kids. But when we turned to from that Iwo Jima Memorial to go back to the packs, and when I heard, and I know it was when we heard, "Get on the gear, Marines," it was like we were running out of a helicopter straight into the dragon's belly. Like we were unstoppable. Marines, and now I'm running as a Marine. Now I'm doing tasks as a Marine. Just like you mentioned, it's just that transformation. Insane.
And I will tell you, I've been out of the Corps for quite some time, since 1999, almost 30 years now. And to be able to come back down here to the low country to re-engage with my fellow Marines like yourself at Parris Island, and then to be able to start this new journey at Belleau Woods just brings me right back there like nothing happened. And all the great things that you've accomplished in your life and I've accomplished in our life. And you boil it down to, we're warriors, and that's what makes a difference. All right, brother. Well,
all right. Well, that's episode 3.
All right.
For more.
Catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to Tavern Talk by Bellewood Tavern. Be sure to like, follow, and visit www.bwoodtavern.com or text BWT to 843-929-1775.